This episode of the Firebird's Fan Zone is brought to you by Kyle Garman Realtor. Whether it's your forever home or that perfect desert getaway, Kyle Garman and his team at Keller Williams have the experience, integrity, and tenacity you can depend on to make the dream of home ownership come true. The Fan Zone is also brought to you by DesertDefenseLawyers.com. It's a fact that bad things happen to good people, and DesertDefenseLawyers.com is there to make it better when it does. DesertDefenseLawyers.com has been keeping good folks out of the penalty box since 2008. The Firebird's Fan Zone is all about sharing the Coachella Valley Firebirds fan experience, so if you're enjoying the show, please remember to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you never miss an episode. If you're really enjoying the show, please feel free to share it with the world. And of course, hit that like button. Okay, if you're ready, we're ready, so let's get into it. 3, 2, 1...
FIREBIRD's goal! Scoring his 13th goal of the playoff. The captain, number 17, Max McCormick, assisted by number 19, Cameron Hughes. Welcome to the FIREBIRD's Fan Zone with your hosts, David and Kyle.
Wow, that's pretty good. Let's go. We are back, and this is a big one.
This is a great one.
A very, very big one. But before we get to it, you got to do your normal thing. Let's go.
Well, I got to thank Palm Desert High School, number one.
Absolutely. We're going to be doing that every day now because we are in our new digs.
That's right.
We'll get to that in a second, but
and
just
then,
say thank you
Yeah,
first.
just everybody out there has been watching the show, supporting the show, and sharing it. We're seeing that go up, so we appreciate you guys. Keep doing it.
Keep doing it. Like it, share it.
Heck yeah.
Make a comment. Do whatever the algorithm, gets us up there.
I like it.
So check this out. Kyle.
Yep.
We got a new house.
We do.
How much do we love our new house?
I love it. I like the new digs. I think this makes more sense, and everybody was giving us a hard time about the video quality of the other. So when PD reached out, I thought, this is amazing.
This is not a single 4K webcam anymore.
No.
No, not at all.
But I love it. I like it.
All right, so and first shout out, thank you Palm Desert High School
Thanks,
for
guys.
everything. This partnership
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
is already and is going to be amazing.
Love you guys.
Legit.
And there's no better first show to have than
Yeah.
with Gina Rotolo. You don't know the name, but you know the work. And rather than me try to describe it, let's just get into it. Say hello, tell us who you are, tell us your story.
What happened? Hi, I know you both, but everybody else, I'm Gina Rotolo. I am the Vice President of Marketing and Team Business Services, which is just a fancy way of saying I run most of the front office operations for the Coachella Valley Firebirds.
Awesome. Now, what the heck does any of that mean?
What does that mean? I say yes and no a lot. My job actually, everything that happens sort of on the front office side to help create fan experiences, operational elements. I don't really have anything to do with overseeing what actually happens with the guys and hockey operations on the ice, which is good.
Right, that's Disco Dance.
My
That's
purview,
a different union altogether.
that's a church and state.
Yeah.
I oversee marketing, communications, broadcast, in-game, production, our community relations, box office, and sponsorship, sales, and service, all those kinds of things.
Is it safe to say that if it wasn't for you, nobody would even know about us? Nobody would even know about the Firebirds?
It's, honestly, this has been such a unique experience for me in launching a team. I think that it is a collective effort to make these things happen. It's not the responsibility or the sheer willpower of just one person. It's a group of people coming together. And I think that we as an organization did a really good job of laying the groundwork and putting the breadcrumbs down, and everybody in this valley picked them up and really ran with it and so authentically and organically embraced the brand, the organization, and the team. I mean, across all entities. It was on the concert and entertainment side, on the Iceplex and community ice skating side, our street hockey programs, and then obviously the product on the ice. So it's been really magical, and while I'd love to take all the credit, it's not really solely me, but I do get to direct the symphony, so to speak.
I was just thinking about, because the way that you're talking about it is awesome, because it seems like there's just so many steps that are taking place as we're trying to get to what we get to enjoy on a regular basis, right? And so at what part did you come in during this entire process? Like, were you there before they broke ground? Were you there afterwards? Like, at what point did you step in and start really having an effect, or seeing things?
Seeing things.
Yeah.
No, I actually started, so I've been in the role probably about 2.5 years now. So that was before ground was it before groundbreaking? And now I'm going to do my timelines. Like the time-space continuum's a little lost.
It was definitely before the lights got turned on.
I'll tell you,
sure.
my first meeting that I flew out here for, and I actually hadn't accepted the job yet, I think it was November 4th, and it was when we were announcing the brand.
21.
Of 20. Of 20.
Oh, 20. Oh.
No, 20, 21? Something like that. But it was right when we were announcing the brand.
Okay.
I want to say is that
So I think-
21? Yeah, it was 21.
I think it's
A
21.
year
It was 21.
before-
Yeah. And then we.
Years mean nothing anymore. I
know exactly.
don't know what's
Yep.
happening. No, but it was we announced the brand and the organization, and unveiled the logo. And in fact, Patrick Warburton was there to do that. So that was my first experience dealing with Patrick Warburton. I thought, how in the world they get this guy?
He
So
seems like he's a pretty fun guy.
he was fun. He was a lot of fun. So it was really neat to be a part of that. And then I pretty much stepped in right at that point.
Okay.
And there was a lot of groundwork that had been done clear before me, but I think I was probably within our organization, maybe within the top 10 or 12 that had been hired at that point, both between the
So
arena.
there's no ice in the building.
There's no
no
building.
building.
We're a giant hole in the ground
Right now,
at this
yeah,
point.
we just got excavators and making a mess.
And I
Okay.
think we weren't even building vertical until maybe January or February that year.
And then it went
So-
fast.
That's right.
Well, let's
Yep.
go back in
Yeah.
time. dude. Let's
Yeah.
go all the way
Sorry.
back. Who were you? What's your path?
Yeah.
What led you to the phone call that led you to the airport that led you to the Coachella Valley?
So I started my career. Taking it way back. I went to school in Texas. I went to liberal arts college, Texas Christian University. Go Frogs!
Go TCU.
Go TCU.
Frog
Go
up.
Frogs.
And I was an art history French major.
Say it again.
In English?
Yeah. I was an art history French
Really?
major with a minor in advertising public relations, and somewhere along the way I earned an area of emphasis in art theory.
What
and
made you-
I'm not even sure how that happened,
What-
but I
how-
wanted to be an international art broker, so obviously I do this now.
Okay. Can we talk?
So yeah, it
Love
it
this
is.
show.
Yeah, my parents are like, what? No, so I really wanted to be an international art broker. I went to work out of college. Basically, I had a couple of side, like, I call them my false start jobs. My family is oil and gas, and so I tried that, and I was absolutely terrible at it.
Okay.
So I was able to get a job at the Kimball Art Museum in Fort Worth, Texas, and it is the only time I used my full degree. I got to speak French on a regular basis. I was working
So you're fluent in French.
I am.
She's got a degree.
Obviously,
I do.
yeah.
I do. And I went to Paris not long ago to make sure that I could still, and it was pretty good. We're still good.
Good
We're
for
still
you.
good. But yeah, I went to work in a museum and I did public relations, and I was creating shows and putting together catalogs and kind of doing all those things and promoting. So it was my first gig as a promoter.
Sounds like the best of all of your
It
world.
really was.
Yeah.
It was the only time I used my whole degree at one time.
awesome.
And then I left that role and relocated to Houston, Texas at that time. I followed a boy. That did not work out great, as it often does not. And which was
Pay attention out
my
there.
last whole point.
Yeah.
I was like, follow your bliss, not someone
Yeah.
else's. But it was really great for my career. And I went to work at a public relations agency where one of my first clients happened to be Tillman Fertitta. So I don't know if you
That's
guys
a
know
good-
that guy.
That is a good
Yeah.
first.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with that guy. He did okay.
He did
okay.
Explain
He was-
explain to
So
who.
Tillman Fertitta he was really a restaurateur that owns the Landry's Empire, which is just bigger and bigger and bigger. And now he has the Golden Nugget. But our paths crossed again many years
He
later.
created the Palm, right? The Palms Casino Resort.
Yes.
The first of its new
He
era.
created that.
Actually, no.
Or that was his brother.
No, that was, his brother was involved
Okay,
in that.
okay.
So Tillman, by the time our paths kind of intersect again, and his hub is based in Houston. So, I had a lot of, I found myself, he had boardwalk properties. We had a boardwalk area in Galveston or on the way to Galveston called Kima Boardwalk. And I think that might have been my first legit time where I suddenly was like, they're like, we need to program entertainment and we need to do like create events and this, that, and the other. So I was doing a lot of that without knowing what I was doing, to be totally honest. And, when in doubt, throw it on the 20-something-year-old PR girl and
Sure.
be like, okay. So I did that. And, our paths intersected many years later when I went to Las Vegas and opening different building. And he was an owner of UFC at the time. And
Oh,
he
was the owner of
I
UFC.
launched
Okay.
a building in Las Vegas, which we'll fast forward to in a second. But UFC was one of our 2 tenants in the building, and I think we did International Fight Week, and that July, like three months after we'd opened, and that was like Saturday through a full week, like a Saturday through a Sunday, and that Monday morning he announced that he had sold his business to IMG.
Oh,
So
okay.
he did okay. I think it was like
A little bit.
How many people showed up?
$1 billion deal. It was insane.
know?
Yeah.
But he was a really happy guy that weekend.
So
that
was
week
Dana
and that
White
weekend.
and Craig Borsari and
Yeah.
everybody else who just scored.
And that's interesting because like my path and my career has, as it's evolved, somewhat calculated and sometimes not at all. Just sort of these things happen. But I think that's really kind of where it started. I started working. I got a lot of the sports and entertainment based clients, hospitality clients.
Were you just feeling your way through, kind of blind the whole time?
I really
on?
enjoyed the event side of things. I loved PR, and it was a relationship forward industry.
And this is before Instagram.
This is before way before all that.
So you're doing PR on a different level.
Yeah, I had a book that was called the Bacon's book, and it was, you were mailing out press kits all over the country. And you were
mailing.
Like, the interwebs did exist, so I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But no,
dial-up.
you were creating these old school press kits and these press packages and doing media drops and this, that, and the other. So I was fortunate that I had a lot of, really high profile clients based in Houston, and that kind of evolved over time. I also lost this job early on because I got downsized after Enron happened. So riddle me this, how do I don't work in that industry, but a lot of my clients, which were entertainment, hospitality, arts, symphonies, operas, things like that, they were heavily funded by companies like Arthur Andersen and Enron. So it impacted my job. So I was like 18 months in this role, and then I got downsized, and that was a tough life lesson to really learn, and I didn't understand.
How old were you around that time?
I was probably in my mid-20s, and it sort of led me to this opportunity, which was, again, I stumbled into it more than anything, but I had a bunch of friends that were musicians, and it was also happening at a time when the record labels were downsizing, like online music was happening.
There's MP3s and Napster.
Napster was a thing, and I'm really dating myself now, so people are going to try and guess my age.
We're with you.
We were there.
I'm super young, child prodigy, and but those things were happening, and the labels were responsible for marketing and PR for all their acts. So when the first people always let go in these situations seem to be marketing and PR people, because we're not selling anything all of a sudden. We don't have any products. We'll figure it out. We gotcha.
Yeah.
So I got hired by a company called Atlas Third Rail at the time, and now it's PMG, Pat Magnarella's group, and was hired to work with them, and kind of ended up out on tour with a bunch of different bands. And
anyone good?
Yeah,
anyone great?
They're great.
Can you name any?
It depends on your musical taste. No, I had a lot of the alt rock acts at the time that were basically, I think, mainly Warner Brothers. So it was Green Day, the Goo Goo Dolls. I had tours with like Alanis Morissette, which is where I first met Taylor Hawkins, and that all this stuff just kind of evolves. Counting Crows. It was all those kind of they'd been big bands in the 90s, and then they were kind of they were doing radio shows and things like that. So I was working to do their marketing and PR, and I got thrown out on tour, and I thought that'd be really cool, only it was not. I was probably one of the only girls on tour at that time. Nobody wanted me there.
What do you do on tour? Like, what is that?
So my job was to work ahead, and a lot of these bands were kind of had, some of them had peaked, some of them were still, there were some still coming up and whatnot, but mainly my job was to try and create a buzz in the future cities we were going to either help sell concert tickets, ideally move CDs, and help sell music, because that's where they're still making their money, and and help create opportunities to get connected with fans. So as a kid growing up in Denver, there were a lot of I'd watch, I was an MTV kid, and I'd watch all this cool stuff and thought, nobody ever comes here. All the cool stuff was happening, like Spring Break Miami, or in Florida, and LA, and the studios are in New York, and this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of cities that you tour through where if you could have a touch point, your fans are gonna be your fans for life, because they don't get that experience. So that's kind of what I was doing, was trying to create these opportunities, and I had a bunch of grown men that were not necessarily big fans of
grown men, air quotes.
of having to do those things. But I think it was good. I learned how to pivot. I also learned everybody's job on tour, which was important to me to understand how it all came together and to make myself useful. My job happened during the daylight hours, and then right before showtime, make sure the photographers or whatever, if there's meet and greets, all that kind of stuff. So, and I worked with a lot of the venue people at that point. And at that time, you had even more streamlined operations, I think, for the venue ops side. But I evolved that, and I got the opportunity to go back to Houston and work on behalf of the city and create a downtown entertainment district. And the first major event that we were launching was the 2004 Super Bowl. So
that's a good first one.
That's
it was
not
no big
bad.
deal.
That's not bad.
So
That's not bad.
again, couldn't have planned that. And during that time, I also was able to connect with Louis Messina, who's one of the biggest promoters out there in the world. You may have heard of some of his acts, Taylor Swift,
I've heard some.
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, I
you
love
know,
Ed Sheeran.
You've got the Chief now. You've got Eric Church. But he had George Strait.
Wow.
At the time, it was Sammy Hagar.
Okay. Everybody.
So we,
A-listers.
we created
There's one name I'm not hearing, though.
Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, where's Kelly? Why isn't Kelly
there's no
in that mix?
Kelly was not. She had not become an American Idol yet.
Oh, yeah, she was not. Sorry,
Pre-Idol. But yeah, basically, we threw this outdoor festival for all these people that were coming to town that couldn't get into all these private events. And that really kicked things to a different level for me. And I'm proud to say that we all survived that event.
Awesome.
And,
that couldn't have been easy. Did you sleep at all?
I did not, and my cell phone number got printed in the newspaper for more information.
No way.
And that was back when you got charged per call.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh my
my goodness.
gosh. Oh my God. I think I didn't make enough money to cover what
Holy
my
cow.
cell phone bill was.
Oh my God.
That's really dated. So anyway, so I just kind of evolved through this, and then eventually I got an opportunity to create a joint venture concert property with a horse racing facility there in Houston, and I worked with Live Nation to do that. So that was kind of my genesis, really working with some of the people that are still running all these things. So partially, I think it was right place, right time, and I think another aspect was I was tenacious, and I was like, I can do that, even if I didn't know how to do
It
it.
sounds like
Figure
you've
it out.
already described an entire career, and you're just barely getting started.
Yeah, and I didn't sleep a lot either, I think. And I think really after that, it was, it kind of just snowballed. I got an opportunity to go work for AEG and and at this point I've been doing PR and creating events and doing some booking and whatnot, but they were opening this new soccer stadium in downtown Houston, and they needed someone to be a booking and marketing person. And I had that experience, and I said, okay. I had never, by the way, booked shows on this level. Like, I wasn't sitting around like doing $1 million guarantees.
Holy cow.
Understanding that math. So I think they took a chance on me, and I took a chance on them, and I was surrounded by some really great people. And that was really, at that point, I'd opened a couple of small clubs. I'd put this concert property in, like an infield area, so it was like a festival ground. And I was doing events all the time, and they were mainly music and entertainment related. So this was really my first foray. I was on the venue side, but I didn't work for the team directly, but I did a lot with the team. And during that time that I was there, I think they've done other shows since, but I put Kenny Chesney in there, and I did Ed Sheeran's tour, like North American tour launch, which for 3 glorious days was his record-setting attendance until he went to Dallas after that.
Well,
and now I'm sure he just does he's doing giant stadiums all over the place and football fields and whatnot.
sells
So it's
out.
amazing. But yeah, I stayed with that organization for about three-ish years and had the opportunity to go to Las Vegas and kind of do it all over again, and it was to open T-Mobile Arena. So
You're just up.
and my plan was never to move to Las Vegas, but it just was, and I wasn't a big Vegas person at the start. But yeah, I ended up in Vegas, and turns out got to launch I launched the National Women's Soccer League team, the Houston Dash, while I was in Houston. So that was the first team I ever got to participate launching with, and we did it in a really short amount of time, and it was a lot to figure out and just.
How much time?
I think I got hired to open that stadium, and I think it was 4 months, 4.5 months.
You had 4 months.
Yeah, I think I got hired in January, and we opened May 12th or something like that.
Sounds like bad planning on
so
their part.
but the building wasn't done, right? So we were doing this in real time. So when I got in with that team, that crew, and this has really set a precedent for me, the people that you go into the trenches with to do these things, you're bonded to for life, like it or not, because you go through so much together, and that's the only thing you're thinking of. And some of that crew left, and one of them, a couple of them went to Las Vegas, and that's how that opportunity came up. And then I brought some other people with me, and everybody scattered from there. But yeah, second team I got the chance to work with and help launch was the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, fun.
And that was a thing. That
It
was a
was-
huge deal on TV.
It was massive, and at the time I started with the organization, and I was hired originally just to do the arena, T-Mobile Arena, and I was going to oversee just marketing, as if that just marketing.
For the Knights.
For the building.
For the building.
For the building. There was
Okay.
one staff member, Todd Pollock. God love you. Shout out to Todd Pollock,
Hey,
who
Todd.
is a true trooper, super trooper, who I think is like SVP of ticketing now in like the whole universe. He's amazing. But it was Todd, and Todd and I were like, can I borrow your database to like promote my shows? And
There you go.
They were trying to get the team, and there was a lot going on the Foley side, and they just weren't staffed yet, and that's normal because they weren't to that phase. Somewhere in the middle of all this, before we kind of even, I think, were opening the building, a handful of us on the arena side got pulled out to help. We suddenly became like overnight MGM employees, MGM Resorts International. I'd say lifted and shifted. That's where I started learning that phrase. But we were
Lifted and shifted.
lifted and shifted over to something different than what you were originally hired for. Just
Lifted and shifted.
no big deal.
I'm going to use that one.
And so a handful of us were tapped to create the Global Sports and Entertainment Division
Okay.
for MGM Resorts International.
Let's just grab those four over there. We need to start an entire division.
So
Yeah.
we were trying to consolidate all of our entertainment elements. So it was, your booking is centralized, your marketing is centralized. At the time, we didn't have an artist relations program, and we developed that later. Operations, ticketing. We were competing against each other for all the different arenas and theaters and whatnot. So it didn't make sense. We had enough competition in the market from other casino entities. So we pulled that all together and streamlined it. And it sounds like no big deal, but I opened 3 buildings in 9 months.
Wow.
And was probably a shell of a human at that point.
Not bad.
And it was a lot, and it was an ever-changing landscape. They were changing the business model from sort of a heads and beds to kind of a butts and seats driver. Like entertainment and sports would bring people to the area, and then they're of course going to book hotels. They're of course going to go to the pool and to the restaurants and use the spa, and they're of course going to
That sounds
they're going to
familiar.
gamble and do
Yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff and the things. And if you're going to pick a city to go see your favorite team play,
Yeah.
would you rather pick, you might pick New York, you might pick LA, you might pick Chicago, but if you had your choice for all these other things, whether it was a concert tour stop or a sports event, go to
We've gone,
Vegas
like,
for a
6
weekend.
times to Vegas for various shows.
Go to Vegas.
It's a perfect location.
Yeah, and that proved to be a really challenging, big learning curve. I, at that point, was definitely working with some of the most powerful people in sports and entertainment,
Wow.
and it was my life 24/7. And while it looked really great and sexy, I was unraveling
You're
as a
dying
human.
inside.
And I think that it taught me a lot about learning to say no and setting some boundaries, healthy boundaries, and enforcing them. Unfortunately, when I was there, I was there for the Route 91 harvest shooting. It was our event. I was boots on the ground that night. It was my worst night at work ever.
So wait, you were there on the ground?
Had I not left the side of the stage when I did, I might not be here. And it was, what I saw that night was really difficult and pretty gnarly, and it changed me as a human. And
How so?
it was really traumatic. I went into, I now know a lot about trauma because I spent a long time having to go through the process to get healed. And you kind of have these flight, fight, freeze, or please. Those are the 4 primary categories. Well, I was definitely a fight that night, and navigating and my first instinct was I need to make sure all these people are safe. Like, we got to get them out of here. No one knew what was happening, and just
So
real
what did
time.
you do then at that point? Like, how do you do that?
I think honestly, like, whether you believe in a higher power or not, I think I had some real angels that night that kind of formed a shield around me and allowed me to maneuver and not be worried about myself, but kind of focus in on the things that needed to happen.
Wow.
Setting up triage, pulling people to safety, trying to get, identify who we could help.
And you've had no other experience like
I've
this in
had-
the past, or?
Well, I think, when you work in venues, you have all sorts of crisis drills. You have active shooter drills, you have emergency evacuations, you have all these things, but nothing can prepare you for what that
Actually
was.
Yeah.
happens,
That was that night. And that was, I say all the time, you can plan for lots of things, you can't planned for crazy, truly erratic and crazy. And it was very chaotic, and it impacted, it ripped through our whole organization, and nobody felt safe. I think it was 4 or 5 days later, we opened the Golden Knights season. And so that first night, where we're still all just deer, I don't think I blinked. I felt like my eyes were like this for a good year and a half. We did an on-ice ceremony where we recognized
I remember watching it.
the festival team. And I'm on the ice that night, and I have no recollection of it. The Golden Knights changed everything about that opening day game presentation. And that team was brought together by immense tragedy and shock and dismay. And I believe it gave them and the city a purpose to play, and a purpose that was so much bigger than a sporting event, so much bigger than just a general opening night.
Yep.
And it changed. I mean, people had already picked up and embraced that brand pretty authentically, but it changed the nature of why we were all coming together and the importance of it. And it was cathartic. It was a space to grieve for most people. It was not that space for me, but it was a space for all these other people. I had to reconcile with, how do I keep everybody safe everywhere I go when I work in a 24/7 environment full of crazy? So that was a little bit more challenging for me.
That was gonna be my next question, actually, because like, how do you come back to work and then do that? I mean, that couldn't, obviously, number one, it's not easy, but I guess how do we bounce back, and how do you like make that next step? Because my goodness.
It's really, it's different for everybody. And I will say that I was in such a state of shock, and I'd had some other pretty significant personal tragic things happen from the time I started opening buildings on. Like, this all has happened in like a 9-month intensive period where I'd lost my mom. 2 days or in between opening one theater on one coast and the other theater back in Vegas. That's how my year started.
Wow.
And by the time I got all the way through October of that year, and then that happened, I'm high functioning, turns out,
Sure.
but it was a lot. It was a lot to take in, and I think that, I really looked at, if I could just take care of everybody else, I'll be okay. But I think that's also a big way to distract and deflect for what you need. I'm really grateful that the organization got us trauma counseling. I think it saved, that was a first indicator and a first step to really saving me a little bit. But I stayed in this role for probably, I think it was another year and a half. I left in September, I think it was, of 19. So that was almost 2 years later.
Wow.
So I probably stayed on longer than I should have. And when I left, I was gonna head to Nashville to a calmer location, maybe just figure. And I was looking at 2 or 3 job opportunities, and then I went home for the holiday, and went back to Texas for the holiday to spend some time with my dad and my brother.
Nice.
I think we all needed each other. And then this weird COVID thing happened, and then my whole industry just shut down. So
Yep.
It was, and I look back on that time was a real gift, because I needed it to heal.
Got to reset.
And I needed it to get quiet. I needed to figure out if I could stay in this industry, if I wanted to, if I was ready to be out and about and like deal with all this stuff all over again. And I think I realized during this time that, our industry had not been kind to a lot of the people that do the day-to-day work to make it happen. You work long hours, you make a lot of personal sacrifices. If you talk to anybody, certainly a certain age that are in sports and entertainment, they're going to tell you, and you tell people when they're interviewing for jobs, this is a nights, weekends, and holidays gig, which means when everybody else is off work at night, on weekends, or on holidays, they're coming here. They're coming here to be entertained. They want to see a show, they're going to come to a game, they're going to do whatever. And it really was, you're sacrificing all those things. You miss your family dinners, you miss birthdays, you miss weddings, you miss funerals, you miss, everything you can imagine. And a lot of us, particularly coming up the way I did, you needed to be visible and stay relevant.
Right.
So for me to step back, I was definitely very concerned that I was going to be obsolete really fast. And all this time I'd been clawing away at trying to climb whatever this hierarchy was. And I wasn't sure where I was going. That's really where it came down to. I was like, what does this mean, and what do I want to do? And I got to do some amazing things. I got to launch residencies. I got to work with some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment. It was very glitzy and very glamorous. But it was also that definition, like my social media life looked amazing, but I was like the loneliest, most tired and saddest person probably in the room, and would probably have just preferred to be like, with my dogs, in hiding, to be totally honest. So I needed to work through a lot of that, and I was able to do that. And when I got this phone call, I knew Oakview Group. Tim Leiweke had been the CEO of AEG when I opened the soccer stadium, and I had, obviously I'd followed what he was doing. With what I was doing, I did a lot of stuff with Irving and his artists when I was in Las Vegas. And this opportunity came up, and I had been kind of watching it through the pandemic, right? Like nobody else was doing anything in this space except these guys.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's interesting. And it just sort of the opportunities, it's a small world, and the opportunities were coming up. I didn't sit still. I restarted a consulting business.
So were you calling folks and just kind of checking in and
it
seeing
was a
what
couple
was going
things. Yeah, I was
on?
getting phone calls. I made it clear that I was available to help people kind of pivot and develop a digital footprint.
Which had to happen.
That was that's kind of where I was going with that.
It was don't fire your marketing and PR people.
Right.
I mean, everybody's furloughed, but your business still has to figure out how to go.
Right.
And I was really focused on how do we help everybody in the industry stay afloat.
When there's
nothing.
And we don't know.
And we don't know.
And we don't know.
And so I was working, I made myself available to a lot of different people that were, significantly more powerful than I have ever been, and said, I want to be part of the conversation. I want to help facilitate the solution. And I think for me, it was fulfilling. For me, it felt healing. And for me, it was important to maybe help try and set things up to be healthier on the other side of this.
That's fair.
Assuming we could all go back to being together.
That's great.
So through that process, those conversations come up, and I get, I kind of get tapped for a couple things, and says, hey, do you really think you want to go back and do this again? And I got the opportunity kind of through some mutual friends, and they said, hey, I'd worked on some stuff with the people that were already going to be Climate Pledge and the Kraken. A lot of some of those people that ended up on the Kraken team side I'd worked with in Las Vegas, and others I had just known because they'd been up in Seattle for a long time. I kind of knew how they were going to staff that, but I kept the conversations going. They were opening a facility in Austin, and I thought, well, that's going to be where I go.
Sure,
Makes the
I
most
love
sense.
Austin.
Right near home.
It's close.
It's great.
I'm probably the only person that doesn't want to, wasn't actively yay, I want to move to Austin. But it was close for my family, and I think I really needed that safety and security hub for myself. And that just, kind of got through those conversations, and the last minute it banked left, and I apparently went right, and it didn't work out, and I was pretty upset. And then I got this phone call saying, everybody had said, we really want to get you in the organization. There's this Palm Springs project, and at the time it was a Palm Springs project.
What?
It's a Palm Springs project, and I met John Bolton, and I'd known him before, but we really got to kind of talking a little bit more. But right as we were starting the conversation, apparently is when things were pivoting here, and they were looking for a new location.
Because the original was in Palm Springs.
So the timing was just off, and I've learned this throughout my career for sure, that you can push and push and push, but it's going to line up when it lines up, and if it doesn't, it's not your door.
That's right.
It's not your window. It's not your thing.
That's true for life.
And it's really hard when you're in the middle of all that, but you land where you're supposed to, and I really believe I landed where and when and how I was supposed to. But I was coming through the side of the door that was going to be on the arena side and had nothing to do with the team, and that changed somewhere along the way. And I got this opportunity to come and help launch the team, and I thought, well, I did that with the other team I helped launch in Las Vegas was the WNBA team, the Las Vegas Aces. So the sports and entertainment division helped bring that team to life. And while there's, you had a crew that specifically worked for that, it was a collaborative. And my role at the time was artist relations, business development. So it all kind of, and I'd launched teams, so I'd had some of that experience. And I was like, well, one team, one building. How hard could that be?
Sure.
And that's how I ended up. It was a very long way around, but that's how I ended up.
That's what.
And I'm
that's
still
what we
only
wanna hear
20-something years old at this.
I know, right? So let's fast forward now, right? And we are now in the second season. All of these great things have happened.
Yeah.
Did you coming in the door 2.5 years ago, whenever it was, have any idea the impact that this organization, that this team, that this thing would have on a community?
No, and in fact, when I talked to the gentleman who was the president at the time, and when I talked to Bolton, and when I talked to even Tim and Todd Leiweke, who I had not really met before, but I just said, I want to be very clear. I cannot pick up the same, it's not like same thing, different desert.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Like,
Right.
I just want to be very clear that this is a totally different, I didn't understand it. I didn't know there were 9 cities. Like, I mean, the fundamentals of coming here, like what I said yes to
There's
versus,
layers.
it was, and I was going to have to learn, but so were most of us. You know, and I think one of the things that stood out for this project initially to me was I was the 5th female vice president hired. And that was really important to me. I've never been around that many other women in leadership. Usually I represented kind of like a check the box, somewhat token. You see like maybe someone in marketing, maybe a finance person, and maybe an HR person.
I would say HR.
But this was, and when I met with those women who are all amazing women, we got together and had brunch, as one does, and we talked through our own experiences and some of the different traumas we've experienced just in the workplace, as a woman in sports and entertainment, all these different things. And we're all in a similar age range, but our
Early 20s.
yeah, obviously, yes, early 20s to early 30s, and seasoned. And we realized that we needed to really, we were going to bond together and we were going to have each other's backs. We weren't going to allow anybody to pit us against one another because we all brought something very unique and very different to the table, and it was going to be really important to make this organization successful. But the genesis of this felt totally different. And I couldn't explain it, and it felt super universal, and I was like, I'm going to do this against my better judgment. I'm not a hockey person per se, and most of I didn't know anything really about the AHL. I've worked with a variety of different professional leagues, but not this directly. So there was going to be a lot of, I was like, I can learn. There's going to be something new and challenging, but I know how to start things. I know how to build teams. I know how to create process and procedure. I know how to get everything done, get it done. And I understood time. And I thought we had like a year to do it. And I thought, well, I've never had that much lead time ever. This will be even better.
But it's a fast year, right?
It flew by, but that's how I feel now.
Yeah.
So, but I think that was a big part of it, is I just knew there was something different and special. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but at every touch point, I was like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to be. And it took me like 7 months to even find a place to live. And at that point, I was like, is this really supposed to happen? Like, I can't. So I was commuting in and out in the middle of COVID still. So,
horrible.
it was my favorite flying experience of all time because there's nobody in the airports. It's great.
So can we talk about December 18th?
It was, that came quick.
It
That
did.
came very quick.
How thrilling was it for you? How amazing was it? At that point when
I don't think thrilling and amazing were the adjectives we would use.
Stressed out.
We were very
panicked.
There was a lot of chaos and a lot of challenges. And this is the thing, when you're not supposed to see, how the sausage is made, so to speak, right? So,
Right.
but
You
it felt the Wizard of Oz analogy is very real. Pay no attention to the man behind that curtain, like doing all the cranks and whatnot. It was a lot of work, and it was a collective effort. And again, we had a lot of staff that have never worked in this industry, so they just don't know. They don't know the pace. They don't get this. So it was a lot. We were sweating it out going into opening day, like the actual ribbon cutting ceremony. We're like, are we going to get the occupancy certificate? It's coming. It's coming. So we did other events before we did hockey. And remember, at this point, I'm
Just
also...
a couple, right? Just a couple
We
that
did
week.
Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. We did the Doobie Brothers.
Then it was hockey.
Was it hockey?
right?
I
Yeah.
feel like there's
It was
one
the
more
third
thing.
one? No.
There was
I don't think
something in the
so.
middle of that. honestly, I should know.
Well, I'm trying to
I
remember.
know,
Well,
but I don't know if
shame
it
on
was.
me.
we talked to Megan, and that wasn't that long ago, and so it's still
Yeah.
somewhat fresh. She was
She was
amazing.
saying that when they were dropping the nets
Oh, yeah.
as people were walking in.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
like, it's crazy, and like and that's all stuff you shouldn't
But who cares? That's the fun of
It's
it.
but that is right. Like you're
That's
in
the
this
life
moment.
of it. That's the life of it, right?
And you know what you're signing up for to a
Right.
certain extent.
But nobody else saw that. Nobody else was paying attention.
And we
didn't see it.
We had to throw a whole half a season on the road first. We didn't even have players.
Right.
So, I'm coming into this. We put season tickets on sale. Like, I come in November. We announce a brand. I do a blind jersey pre-sale for Christmas. We'd opened a team store, which was already done. I was just there to be like, it's open. Thank you, Wade. But I can take no credit for
It was
that.
a nice little store, too.
It was
I liked
great,
it.
and it was
Yeah.
what we needed at that time.
I loved it.
But we did a blind jersey pre-sale. We hadn't finished everything with the jersey. So
There's one right there. That's the first edition.
so
first round.
we were trying to get these things produced and like timelines and whatnot. We did when we actually did the jersey reveal, I'd gotten sick before COVID finally got me.
Yep.
Flying back and forth, and I'm planning this whole jersey reveal, which by the way was crazy. I look back at that footage, like at the airport with the jets taking off behind me. Like, what was I thinking? We were hoping to get the big.
Get it done?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't even get the Kraken plane there because it wasn't approved to land yet. Like it was the size of that plane. But these are I'm learning all about aviation as if that was part of my job. So we're just gonna make it work. We're gonna fake it till we make it. And
Nobody knew.
we got it done, and it was
No.
really great, and everybody was so excited every time
Yeah.
we did something else and something else.
Yeah.
But season tickets on sale that April.
And how many signed up?
We
Do you
had, I think our list was around, if I remember correctly, I think it was around at least the 3,500 mark.
Nice.
And that had been collecting, but remember, this process started well before any of us were here.
I got my tickets 3 years before for Christmas.
So
how
people
did you do that?
started
My wife
signing
got it
up.
for me.
We didn't do that. We did the other
Well,
route.
she put the deposit down.
Well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
We'd been collecting deposits
Okay. I
before
put
we
mine
knew
down.
what it
Yeah.
was.
I did that.
So
Well, we didn't know. We didn't care.
I was like
gonna be
number
hockey.
1,600, and then I had somebody call me, and then we went online and did the video thing.
And I might be wrong about it, but we
It was
were still
awesome.
trying. But we're still trying to build. We couldn't do virtual select to see because we were building the technology and the arena.
I was
wasn't
able to
really
do
yet.
it, so I was on the backside of it when it was
Oh,
actually.
you didn't go in. I went in.
No,
in
But
dude.
person.
people showed
I
up. It
went
was
online.
so funny. We did
I
a
went online.
direct. I did a direct mail piece.
great.
And I first of all, I couldn't believe. I was like, did I just step back into 1987? I have to do a direct mail. It was the most successful thing I had done.
Mailers work.
To date was to do that, and people showed up with the postcard
See?
and then the newspaper with the full page ad. And they're like, I want to buy tickets here, and we're like,
Okay.
Okay, well,
well, you can't yet, but come on in. We'll
Yeah.
figure this
Right.
out.
Right.
So, but we
That's
were
great.
doing, and at the same time we were launching street hockey programs, and we put, Shannon Miller was instrumental in putting 6,000 kids through a street hockey program in 4 months.
That's amazing.
And
6,000.
getting sticks and the ball and all the and people trained to even start doing these kinds of things. It was,
Wow.
there was just it was just the it's like the ing that you needed, the ing or the zing to get everything done.
well, you have an incredible team.
We do, and
I
it's
mean,
and
everybody
I'm
that I've
so
come in
fortunate.
contact with.
Yeah.
I'm
has
so
been-
fortunate, and that's I think that's one of the reasons that most of us stay doing it because it
Well,
was
it's not
tough.
easy.
It's
It's not-
not, and
no.
you have a lot
work.
of there's a lot of challenges with when it's new and it's different, and people don't have a frame of reference, and we had different thought processes on who we should market to and how we should market it, and there's conflict in all that stuff.
Sure.
And we were throwing games on the road. I had to throw 4 home away from home games in Seattle. We barely had
Yep.
players. I didn't know. I mean, I remember getting off a plane to go do, I think it was league meetings that year, in the spring. And I get off a plane and I have all these missed calls and text messages, my least favorite thing. That's a trigger thing for me to this day.
Yep.
And it's Seattle calling me saying, we're going to announce the coach today. And I was like, no, we're not. Oh my God, what? So I spent my first league meeting attendance ever, not meeting anybody in the league at all or other teams or counterparts, sitting in my hotel room, setting up, getting Dan
Wow.
ready to announce and doing Zooms with media from all over the world.
I never even.
And
gave
all
any
of my
thought
friends
to
who
how
are
much goes
crazy
into that.
Pittsburgh fans I met someone today. He was like, oh my God, I'm a Penguins fan, Disco Dan. And I was like, yeah, but it was
That's our guy.
it was huge. And that was before we announced Jess Campbell. And then Jess came right after that. And then I think Matt Tennyson was our first player that we announced, if I remember correctly. So I'm doing all this in real time without a lot of structure and resources.
So it's everything without a net. There's
It
just.
kind of is. My
you
Seattle
doing it.
counterparts were extremely helpful and they helped us do a lot of things. So, which was great, but like we had to build on, they kind of gave us this beautiful brand a little bit on a platter and said, okay, go. And let us really do it and build our own identity. So every single day we've been doing that since.
Yeah, it's been awesome how you
And
guys.
getting to opening day was just, it was crazy and chaotic and magical. And then we're like, oh my God, we have to do how many games between now and the end of April? We were doing like 3 to 4 games a week.
So there you go. So what's the difference now between this schedule and last year's schedule? How many more games are we seeing, at home versus this
same
now?
number of games, but
Same
not
number
as
of
condensed,
games.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a compressed schedule from mid-December to mid-April. And then we just went on that crazy ride.
From April to
the end of June, like what was going on.
nuts.
So this year this was our first like full normalized year.
Yeah.
Where we start at a normal time and we go through, so everything's spread out across October to April, which makes it at times really easy, but then we got out of the habit. When we've had some weeks where we've had 3 games in a row, whew,
Like, well, how do we
All of
do
a
this
sudden you're like,
before?
oh yeah,
everybody's
that's
like, oh
right.
my God, what are we gonna do? There's 3 games. I'm like, you guys, we did this all the time last year. But again, I think it's a trauma response. You just kind of like
Complacency, yeah.
got to get going, like repress, deny, move forward. And so we had, I think it was like a 10 or 11 week off season. At no point ever were we really off. And we were trying to
No.
rest and recover our staff to let them breathe so that they
Did you
didn't
get
burn
take a
out.
vacation?
I took a little bit.
Well, you
here
went to
and
France,
there.
right?
I did. I took a
Yeah.
little bit in July, and then we all definitely took some time. And then I was really hoping to take this trip to France before the season. It didn't work out that way, so we did opening day this year, and then I left right after that.
Oh, wow.
And I was gone for 10 days, and I made it back in time for I missed the second game. I think it was the 25th of October, and I was back in time for Dia de los Muertos,
Oh, that was fun.
That was a good one.
That was a fun
which
night.
was crazy.
How fun was that?
It was great. Like, and you want to talk about, picking theme nights and really trying to lean into the fans that we were still getting to know and all the learnings that we had last year. And I was like, we got to do this. And
So the fan response. Let's talk about last
Incredible.
year, because that's what this is, obviously, right? Firebird's Fan Zone. Here we are. So you had no idea how the Valley was going to respond, and
you have a hope.
right? There's always the expectation of, but
Yeah.
you're not sure if you're going to get there. But I mean, what was that like for you? How therapeutic was that for you coming from Vegas and everything that you had to endure from that to now coming to the desert?
Yeah.
The team, literally had to galvanize and live in the hotels in Seattle, right? They're on
Yeah.
the road for a good portion of it. So they're figuring their stuff out. You guys are, your team, like you said.
And we're kind of isolated from that.
Everybody's
right? Like
isolated,
the front
yeah.
office is very much
And then you get
isolated
thrown
from
into the
that.
pot December 18th, and then we go on the run and we do all this
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, how rewarding, how did that feel for you?
It was really, honestly, it was really incredible. And I am a little remiss because I was so in go mode. And I think I just kind of got back into this. Oh God, it's the next thing. It's like every time we would win and advance from one round to the next to the next, I'd have about a 30 to 60 second period, if I was lucky, where I could be like the energy and the vibe, like we talk about all the time. And I can't describe it. It's just, it's why you do what you do. But I would be a part of that for about 30 to 60 seconds, and then it was like watching all the boulders roll back downhill. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Hey, Sisyphus,
Now
here
we-
we go
okay.
again.
Okay, wait, we have all the next thing ready to go, and we got to find out who we're playing and what date and what time, and oh my God, I'm going to change the colors, and this is
I know,
our
that
new
was
campaign.
That had to be nerve-wracking because, okay, Friday we win. Now Monday we got to have 10,000 white
We would
shirts,
have
around the bowl.
we're talking about 72 hours usually on average to turn that around.
So
So again,
amazing.
super grateful for the team that we built, and you have to lean in to everybody's experience. You have to trust them, and I think that I had, particularly with my group, I worked really hard to enable and empower them so that they felt confident in making decisions. And my whole thing has always been, do what you think is best based on all the information you have at that time. And if you can't run it by, if I'm not there to say yay or nay at some point, like I need you just to feel confident enough, like,
There you go.
and get the flow. You have to trust each other. It's a
good
team.
leadership. It is,
I can't do it all, and I don't want to do it all.
That's right.
And you shouldn't have to
And
do it
remember,
all.
we're developmental on every level of our organization. It's not just the players and the coaches. It's in the front office. So not everybody wants to just stay in the AHL. They want to go do bigger and better things. And honestly, I've had the privilege of doing that across my career. So I want to make sure that people get where they want to go. And sometimes that is, all right, the nest fly.
Go. Yeah, have
That's
fun.
got to be a cool place to be,
That's
right?
maybe
know.
where the
I
hashtag
think
Let's
so.
Fly came
You're,
from.
you're helping people.
Really?
No, it
I was
didn't.
gonna
But
say,
that's a good way. It's a
say,
good way.
you're helping people get on the up escalator.
Yeah,
and,
just
and that's,
go, make
Because
the
you've already
decision.
been up there, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I've been there. Now
Yeah.
let me get you
Make
up
the
there.
decision.
That's amazing.
And we had to lean on each other because we didn't have the time to micromanage, argue.
True.
We had to just execute. So my goal, and I did it better than better at sometimes more than others, was trying to get everything as teed up as we can. Like, we can work up to this line, and then we know that if we win tonight or in 2 days, we got to be ready to do this, but there's going to be some information we don't have.
Sure.
So tee everything up and figure it out. And remember, in addition to educating our fans on how the sport worked and what it was like to interact with our product,
Yep.
we had that same experience on both the arena and the team side in terms of, our sponsorship partners. We have a lot of local partners that this was their first go around, and it's great that they have the opportunity, but it's more than just give us your logo and that's all you got to do. So same thing with media. We weren't, you've got events that come through here and set up for a week,
Right.
or maybe 2 depending, but not something that was consistent. So we're educating everybody on all levels at all moments in time on how to do these things. And that takes time, and that takes patience, and that takes grace. It takes the willingness and the ability to just be like, well, that didn't work the right way, and we're just going to carry on, and
Just
here we
keep
go.
moving. Yep.
And that's a big piece of it is learning to, I tell everybody now, it's just like this time we're at height of season, like pack your patience anywhere you go. And I think that a big part of every job I've ever been in and every opportunity I've had is somehow the universe is trying to teach me patience. And sometimes that works
Have
better
you
than
asked
others.
for patience? Because that's what's happening then.
I have. I think
Well,
it might
that's-
be. Maybe I
there
didn't
you
even know what
go.
I asked for.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big piece of it. We all had to, we were just kind of in solid go mode for so long. And I tell people before, it's like being strapped to a rocket ship each time you did this. And you didn't know if you knew you were taking off, and you knew it was going to be at full blast, but you didn't know if you were going to hit a brick wall or if you were going to land at the next target, but you didn't know what that target was and
You're
where
going to
it
land in
was.
the ocean?
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
in the
where are you going to be?
mountains, or-
So you're bracing for what you can, and it's like control what you can control, which sounds all well and good, but when you're, but we played pretty much every possible second, right? Like,
Yeah.
and now we're like, oh my gosh, we got to do viewing parties, and now I got to think about broadcast on the road, and now we're going to be on NHL Network, and oh my
Yeah.
gosh, and we're going to be on Root Sports up in Seattle, and all of these amazing things that from a marketing standpoint, you could not ask for a better like Cinderella story. And selfishly,
If you're
secretly-
prepared for it.
prepare for it. Selfishly and secretly, by the time we got to the finals, we were playing, as we all know, the Hershey Bears, which is the feeder team for the Capitals. This was a big moment for me because the Golden Knights lost in season 1 at the Stanley Cup Finals to the Capitals.
Oh.
So here we were winning their Stanley Cup. I
Yeah.
was supposed to be there the night that they won, but we had advanced. So I was like, I got my own job to do over here. And when I was like, this has to be it, right? Like this is the full circle moment where we're going to overtime in Game 7.
Game 7.
And it could not have been more electric
No.
or more like it was there. It was all
there.
just there. And I thought this is going to be the full circle moment where I'm going to have the chance to finally be a part of an organization when I'm still working there that wins. And I'm going to beat the feeder team for the team that beat me the
Oh,
last time I
that'd have
launched
been
the hockey
so
team.
good.
And when I think
would've
we
been
all,
so
I was
tasty.
standing on the ice just as devastated as the rest of you. Like I called the scores. Like, it's going to be 3-2 us. And when it was everything but that, and I thought, oh my gosh. So we have to come down from that
Man.
and regroup. And here was a group of people that a lot of these had never been through this before. They
Right.
were devastated, just like the fan base was. And then, very quickly I had to remind myself, because you can't see the forest for the trees when you're in that go mode all the time. My goal when I came out here was to figure out how to get 9 very different cities with lots of different people. There was a local population. There were people that were like, no, don't talk to the locals, just talk to the snowbirds. These are the people that are going to be our bread and butter. And no, we got to pay attention to what's important to sponsors and this, that, and the other. It was how to merge all those puzzle pieces together. And to me, it was about creating a place where everybody could come together and create community. And you can want those things and you can tee them up, but you can't manipulate it to the to get the result that we had. So it took me a minute or two, a few days after that, to kind of come out and like the shell shock wears off and realize that's what had happened.
Yep.
And people were
in a huge
that never
way.
would talk to each other. We're talking to each
So
other.
we were just talking about that earlier to the principal,
We didn't know each other.
and she had asked how long we had known each other, and
A year and 3
like
months.
about
December 18th. We know our anniversary date, which is I
For
think-
anniversary.
yeah, we got you something. The bromance is real.
I love it.
And it happened quickly, like a lot of other people. We've
Yeah.
talked about it on other episodes, where the sections, because of what was happening in the arena, and it wasn't everybody I've
Our
talked
little
to.
neighborhood.
Yeah,
You know, little
it's
sections.
our people.
Yeah.
That's our tribe.
Yeah.
Like those are our community.
And that was a big piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but that was the magic of the moment. And I'd kind of lost some of that because we were so into the execution piece of got to create the next thing, the next thing, the next
Right,
thing.
you're in
now
go
do, now
mode
do,
the
now
whole
do.
time.
And you miss
Yep.
that, like, because we're just in go mode.
Yep.
So I think that was a bigger message to take going into season 2 was everybody needs to appreciate and enjoy the ride a little
Yes.
bit. And look, we're going to be, this is our sophomore year. We're crushing it right now.
We're doing
But we didn't
great.
know how it was
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah.
right? Like at some point, the law of averages when you are with a team is that you're going to have some seasons where you're amazing and, hopefully you can build on those year over year. But you're going to have some seasons, it's inevitable that it's not going to be so great.
Right.
So my job, thankfully, isn't to focus on that side of the business.
Yeah.
I'm never going to control that, and that's okay. Is how do I help create community and amazing and engaging fan experiences? How can our team come up with things that feel inclusive, feel representative of our entire valley, not just one segment at a time? And our job is also, since we're developing players, it's hard, right? When they leave and they're beloved,
Yeah.
but they're part of the
We're
legacy
learning how to deal
and the
with that.
roots of that. So it's our job to also introduce you to the next favorite player you may have, and we want them to succeed, and we don't want
Yeah.
them to leave, but we also want them to be really successful. And I mean, look what's happened with the players that were here last year that helped
I know.
create such magic.
Yep.
I mean, what an incredible story, and they will always be, and particularly that first team, they will be. They are Hall of Fame
Those
here
are
forever.
our people.
They're the
Those are our
roots,
people.
right?
So whenever we talk about them, like those are our people.
Yeah, and they're representing this whole area. Like that to me was the bigger conversation to start, in addition to changing the way sports and entertainment is conducted and presented. I wanted to make sure that we saw a lot of people that didn't come back to this industry after COVID. You've seen a lot of people that just were burned out. I want to create a healthier space for the people that are coming behind me, whether it's other women and girls or if it's boys, men, girls, women, whatever. I want everybody to have a healthier space to thrive and make their mark in. There's professional opportunities here that didn't exist 2 years ago, and I want the kids in this valley to know that they can
That's incredible.
go do it.
There's some in this
This
room
right
right
here,
now
like
that
I
are-
mean, I'm
Yeah.
running,
Yeah.
in-game production. That was
Yeah.
that wasn't my first language. So trying to figure out how do we find people that we can develop them as well.
Well,
Work
like a
together.
farm.
Do that. Yeah,
Exactly.
we're a farm team on all levels.
Exactly.
So what did you? So the buzz wears off, and you realize we did it, and now we got to do it again.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What did you keep? What did you change? What's different this season for you and your team than from last season? Other than the obvious, inaugural stuff.
I mean, I think that a big part of that was the pivot. We knew we were going to lose some, and how did we create opportunities to present new players and help them develop
Yeah.
their personality? Our team is young.
Yeah.
I think they're like the ages are like 20 to 30.
But they
The
fit so
younger-
well,
we have,
though.
um,
But they fit so well.
They do,
Melance's
but
only 19, I think.
I think
right?
he just turned 20.
Just turned
I think
20,
he just turned
okay.
20. But that was part of it. How do we, that camaraderie that they were able to develop at their core, right? Like living on the road.
Well, that's what it was.
They weren't going to get that same opportunity in
was-
the
yeah.
same capacity. So how are we going to introduce fans to that? We took away, we looked at how do we make it more fun and more functional? Those are big things.
There you go.
We were really fortunate that we were able to create space for locals to really come in and take the ride with us at a pivotal time last year, playoffs.
Yeah.
It's the end of season, right? So I wanted to make sure that we had price points that allowed people to come in and to really experience it. So that was important to us as an organization. And so, we were fortunate. We grew our fan base because a lot of the people that were coming and buying the tickets every few days,
realized might as well become season ticket members.
it was like, how do we
sure,
create
yeah.
an opportunity for them to do that? So we were able to, again, having the highest season ticket membership in the league is incredible. The groups we didn't start groups until playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So this is our first full time with groups and like what we're able to do and the experiences we can create. Helping further develop ways for sponsors to have impact and activate and have a presence that really is meaningful on both sides, not just here's my logo,
Right.
great, we're going to do a giveaway in the middle of the game and call it done.
Yep.
So we didn't want to check the box. So I think those are big things, but also, last year we started with the, One Valley, One Team Rising Together, which really worked to curate that phrase, that mantra, and that'll be the foundation. We now have a home. People know who we are.
Yep.
I think people are afraid to come play.
Well, no, they are.
So,
Yes.
but we
Yeah,
kind
we've heard
of, my goal was to, was never to align with the other things that other teams in the league were doing. That's not why I was hired. I'm a change maker and I see things differently. I hired people that didn't have that same perspective. So I wanted to push those opportunities and I wanted to push the league to be able to grow with us and invite other organizations to do some of the things we're doing, whether it's from a broadcast standpoint, whether it's from a brand standpoint. But that was the big thing this year is this is home, right? Like now we've established it
Yep.
and we kind of kick the door open.
And you know
We're
who you
like,
are.
"Hello."
You've established kind of an identity.
We have an identity
Yeah.
and we have a very enthusiastic fan base.
Yes, you do.
That wants to. But how do you still harness that and keep it marching forward in a constructive way?
Well, you got to keep it new and keep it fresh, and that's a tough thing to do
It
too,
is.
because especially if, and like you said earlier, we're winning, so that's great, that's helping, and it's kind of sustaining.
Yep.
But when things don't go so well,
Yeah,
are we going to see the same kind of support and the same kind of?
And that's, and only time will tell. But, we're looking at, some of the things that we maybe had to do that felt a little like kind of gimmicky, maybe last season. I don't have to, I realized important things. I don't have to do a ton of giveaways and do a theme night at the same time. There are other, we gave away a Fuego bobblehead on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And
Sold out, too, huh?
Sold out a Wednesday night.
Heck yeah,
I gave away some light sticks on a Wednesday night.
that was fun.
Almost sold out. I think, maybe we did sell it. It was very close if we didn't to a sell. We've
Yeah.
had something like 8. So I don't think it's 10 yet. But
On a
like,
weeknight?
But like 8 sellouts this season.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's crazy. Our average attendance is still really high. And it was a slower start.
Sure.
But,
Yep.
we're at that time of year where we kind of ride that wave. So we're getting our first full year of data
Love it.
to really figure out how we can make better, more impactful decisions as we develop season over season. Because while there are certain theme nights we know that we'll always do because they are representative and indicative of the area, the team, what our fans want. But, how many of those things do we really need to do? The opportunity to raise money, and
Yeah.
really now that we have the foundation, One
Yes.
Valley
Do
Foundation.
you want to talk about that a little bit? Because a lot of people don't know about that
Yeah.
foundation.
So we were operating under community relations last year, and we were working to get a 501c3 started. And in a post-COVID world in the state of California, it is not easy to do that. So we are finally a legal entity. We're
Okay.
a 501c3.
One Valley.
One Valley Foundation, and that is the entity that's going to be the nonprofit arm for all of the stuff that we do.
Okay.
But it's very Firebirds facing, right? Like there's a lot that we're doing. It's about getting, it's health and wellness, it's education, it's youth sports and recreation, it's getting people introduced to the sport of hockey. Those are all important things. We're very fortunate to have Grant Fuhrer as our
Yeah,
president.
he's like the ambassador there.
Grant's been
He's
who gets
amazing.
Grant Fuhrer is like, oh, by the way,
I know.
here's this guy Grant.
Just baked right in. Here's a Hall of Famer.
Well, and
for
I
you.
take some of that for granted, right?
great.
It's like Dan and Jess and Stu.
all those guys.
And, Ron Francis, all of these people that we have access to, that people are like, oh my God, you talk to them. You know them?
You know them.
But like,
On a regular.
Grant Fuhrer was one of those people, right? And it was like, this Grant just going to come.
He's just an awesome guy. He's an
So,
awesome
I mean,
guy.
but so again, like, getting the time to evolve into those relationships a little bit more and understand, like we all had to kind of feel it out and get to know each other, but figuring out the ways we can most impactfully work together and collaborate is really important. So this foundation is really important. We're going to be doing a lot of work. Our goal is to keep all this money local and put it back into local programs. We are at the heart of everything we do. It's got to be about the community. And that means it means something different to everybody you talk to.
Right.
So we're still very early on, in figuring out how to do this. We've been able to raise. I think we crossed the $1 million mark.
Oh, congratulations!
I think it was end of January, maybe. And that's all done through fan-generated opportunities, right? You're going through Dash App, you're bidding on jerseys, you're bidding
it's
on,
the auctions.
It's all the stuff through Dash
so
App.
people don't know
we don't have,
that's where it's going.
Yeah, we don't have like an endowment where someone said, here's $5 million.
No? You
and
don't have
just
that?
get started. No.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No, people are like, we'd like you to spend that much money right away.
Sure.
So we're generating this through our fan base.
Wow.
Well,
And
anything we can do to help with that, we'll
keep
be
buying those jerseys.
Heck yeah.
happy to. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And but that's a big piece of it, right? Like it's the little, Andrew's come up with Andrew Mason, who runs all this. He's incredible.
Andrew's awesome.
He is. You can't teach that level of passion. And again, this is where we are so fortunate as an organization. We have people that just show up with that level of they are all in. They are completely committed to what we're doing, and they have so much passion.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to maybe peel it back or put some bumper pads on it. But it's really, I mean, we're incredibly blessed as an organization, and every day really is. It sounds cheesy, but every day really is. It's a gift to get to do what we do.
Well, you got great people.
and-
They're every so nice.
And they're fun to work with. I mean,
Everybody's so
sometimes
nice.
we do Lockhorns, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm pretty sure right now,
As you should, right?
the
If
number
you're
of
gonna
people
do
that
so.
will probably take my name in vain on an average work day because I'm like, here's what we're gonna do, and you can just hear eye rolls sometimes. But that's what it's supposed to be. We're really fortunate that this support starts from the top down.
Yeah.
It starts with Todd Lightwicki. John Page, huge, tremendous advocate for everything we do. I so enjoy working with him. He is a collaborator. He is knowledgeable. He allows people to thrive in their space. And, he's just like, let's go.
Love that.
We both have a similar philosophy. My job for everybody that works, with me is to block and tackle, remove obstacles.
Yeah.
How do you get from A to B? And I found, we're stuck here. And he does the same thing for me, and so does Todd, and so do a lot of people in Seattle. Tim does that when he's around. Like my role is a little bit different, but I do. We have direct access, which is very unique in this situation, to have that much interaction and interface with owners on that level. Francesca Bodie, amazing. Troy Bodie, right? It's all of it.
So is it different than Vegas
Very much so.
in that way where
For me and my role,
you
and
can
I
see
think-
behind the curtain? now
Yeah, and
a
I
little
think
more?
that the difference is I'm clearly on the team side now. So
Okay.
had I maybe worked for Foley, I probably would have had some of that too. I had interactions with him and with that group, but that's also part of it. You got to find the right mix of people, and the Golden Knights didn't quite figure that out right away either. That they're shifting and changing, and
Right.
sometimes the people that you start things with, or open buildings with, or launch teams with, those aren't the people that stay because they firmly come in, and this is where they excel, because they get things up and running, they
And
get
then
you
they're
pointed
on
the
to the
right
next.
direction, and it may not fit for them or for the organization. So those are hard things.
Yeah.
I've been in all these startups, and that's always a big question. Like the time's ticking, right? You gonna ask? You gonna ask it?
I am going to ask.
Oh, go ahead.
because,
Our floor director is telling us that
gotta wrap it up?
Well, we don't.
We don't.
It's if you got a few more minutes, we'd
We got a
love to
few more
spend it
minutes.
with you.
We'll do it. Is this rapid fire now? Let's do it.
No, not
He's
yet.
got one more. I can see it in his eyes.
Well, I did, and then
and then we'll get to it.
okay. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, you come in, and I think you're like the heart then of what's going on in the organization. Like you're making very conscious decisions to do certain things to impact, and you're very mindful. It sounds like you're not just running a business.
No.
You're clearly
creating a culture.
creating a very strong culture.
Yeah, not to put too fine a point on it, but that's what's happened.
That's what you hope.
How long
Hope nothing. That's what's happened. Look, that's what happened.
are you planning on staying around? Like,
I think there's still.
I know I'm asking a big question.
Well,
but
it is, and like all the answer is you never know what's supposed to be next for you. But
Sure.
I feel like there's still so much opportunity and so many things we can do, and that I think we'll get to do, and it's a really unique position to be in.
Okay.
We may be technically listed as a minor league team, but there's nothing minor league about what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a huge amount of opportunity to help elevate what we're doing from an Oakview Group platform within this area and even regionally. And I definitely see this big opportunity to really help the league evolve and help the league grow.
That's awesome.
And help other people do it.
Oh, sorry, I got another great question because I'm asking it, so why not? The other teams, are they looking to what you guys are doing and setting like you've raised the bar now of what it takes to be an AHL, what it can be. Are they starting, like, are you hearing the whispers, and are you starting to, maybe the other ownerships are starting to, like, hey, I think we need to raise our bar level, because you go and play down in Coachella Valley, it's a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah.
You go to
This ain't Charlotte Checkers.
You go to Charlotte and
Well,
you got
it really
no
comes-
disrespect.
No,
to
No,
Checkers.
but I mean,
you got
that's
500
a big piece of it, right? So I think it's it's a yes and no. You know,
Yes, you're hearing it happen?
Yes, there's definitely some of that happening.
Okay.
Not every team or ownership group in the league wants or feels the need to have to do that.
Okay.
So we're
That's
doing
fair.
things differently.
That's fair.
There are a handful of ownership groups that get that and are also doing similarly.
Got it. Okay.
You know, I don't think it's, and that it's interesting, you know, when you look at who owns teams and, you know, are they happy and content with having a couple thousand people in the building? You know, are they happy and content with having, you know, if they're okay where they are,
That's fair.
we're not going to change that.
I guess.
But more importantly, we're not trying to change that. We're doing our own thing. And we are more than happy to be inclusive and have conversations. The really funny part was we were the newest team, obviously, and league meetings happen literally like as finals are still going on.
Whoa.
So we were supposed to present as the new brand last year, and we were a little bit busy, so we didn't get to do that. So we still have not been able to present as a brand, and the league has asked, they're like, do you want to do this virtually? And I said, I just really feel like there's, and we all got busy, but I was like, I feel like there's a better opportunity to do that in person. And I don't
Yeah.
want to be the person that just comes and does a Zoom.
Right.
Right.
I want my team to be showcased. I
Right.
want them to be able to really, you know, they're proud of what they've done. And I want them to get the accolades, and I want them to get the face time. And I want to make sure that they become go-tos
That's awesome.
for counterparts.
I love
I
that.
want to make sure those conversations are facilitated. And I think we're doing a better job from a league standpoint. You know, Andrew has community calls, and my social person talks with everybody else in the league, and you know, but sharing those ideas. You know, the league just got a graphic designer, so our graphic designer and their graphic designer are talking. When we were doing everything to unveil the All-Star logo, right? There's bigger
Yeah.
things still coming, and the way that other teams and other organizations have always done things, or this is how we do it. That's great. We're going to do our own thing.
I like
and
that.
so like I'm super excited about what we're going to be able to do, and I think how our fans are going to show up for the All-Star game next year.
Oh, it's going to be insane.
We still are very much in, you know, these our firsts. So there's still a lot of firsts, and I feel like I can really add a lot to those things, and I can help develop and shepherd some things along. So I don't think I'm done yet.
How does it feel for you
Love it.
to be on the leading edge of all of it?
It's really nice, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I've spent a long time in my career wanting to be on the A team, and somehow, right, wrong, or indifferent, and it's very endearing to me, like, the island of misfit toys is where I live. And I'm good with that.
Wow.
And at some point I was like, the island of misfit toys is the A team.
Correct.
We look at things differently. We see, you know, we approach things differently. We talk about things differently. Different isn't bad. Different isn't for everybody. But different works and has worked for me and has allowed me to build a career and create really good relationships and have real impact. And this place has maybe helped me recognize and be maybe more grateful instead of always thinking, what's next, what's next, what's next. But I think that's a big piece of, you know, the work I've had to do for myself is, you know, success looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you are doing all these things and getting all these accolades and it looks really good on paper, but you're miserable, what's the point?
What's the point?
So this feels good. It's been, you know, like I said, it's a little different because you do get to know everybody, and that can sometimes be a double-edged sword. But I think that, you know, we still have so much opportunity to make change and have real impact and be a foundational space for a lot within sports, but also a lot within entertainment. And I'm really excited and very, very fortunate to be a part of it.
Well, I'll tell you, we are grateful for you coming today.
Yes.
We're grateful for everything Firebirds.
Oh, man.
What better way to get us to
you
rapid
ready?
fire? Let's
Absolutely.
do it.
Well,
And you know about rapid fire. Have you prepared your answers?
I have not, actually. I mean,
Good
I
for
know
you.
it happens, but I don't know. But
Do you know what the questions are?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
here it comes.
This is the best
Here it
part.
comes, guys.
I liked some element of surprise,
Yeah.
she says cautiously.
Oh no, they're wiffle ball questions, but yeah, and to reiterate, kind of, I mean, echo what he was saying. I mean, my word, I love hearing your story, and I love where we're at, and I love the culture that you've helped create.
Like I said, it's really, you know, I'm super lucky and fortunate because it's been, everybody's so bought in, and that makes all the difference in the world.
From a fan's perspective, and from just one
Don't touch your microphone.
one man's perspective,
You get yelled at.
when this was coming, and this is what I was hoping for would happen. Like when you knew this was going to happen, and I didn't like going to LA to watch.
Really? I never imagined it.
I was hoping for something like this where it's just you could be community and family oriented,
Yeah.
and you did that.
And we had to, right?
yeah.
Like, and we weren't
That's
sure
great.
how that would, again, best laid plans, right? So, you know.
Yeah. No,
Sometimes
good job.
you get there and sometimes you don't.
Well, you
but
did.
we're
You
really
surpassed
good.
it.
So
You guys-
I'm thrilled, and
Good for
I'm even more excited to see how this continues to develop.
I'm glad we could do it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that's a big piece of it.
And you're not going anywhere for a while. It sounds like to me.
No,
Sounds like there's
same
too much
here.
That's what I
opportunity.
heard her say.
That's right.
That's what I heard.
So everybody's going to start going up to my boss and be like, "It's good, right?"
Yeah, everything's good. Okay, now I don't know how I've seen you out and about in the arena, and I don't think you probably get a lot of time to do this. But what's your go-to food out at the arena? Do you have a spot?
You've tried it all, right?
Yes and no. Last year, I would have said it was the fish tacos, and every time I ate the fish tacos, we did well. We don't have the fish tacos this year, so I had a little bit of heartburn on that. I'm like, but I need fish tacos. So most of the time, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, the new Fry Heaven situation.
That's a good spot.
That
It is
is
good, Jam.
that is
It's
not
good.
what I should be eating, but it is.
It's good.
Sure is good.
It's kind of magical.
I
kinda
like
magical.
if you go outside, they have, I think it's Smash Burger or where you
Yeah.
get the burger.
Yeah.
They have the fries, the shoestring fries, and
Yeah.
they have the fuego dipping sauce.
But most of the
It's really
time, I mean, it's sort of like a behind the scenes. Like I'll usually eat before.
Yeah.
So we have media meal and some of that
good.
stuff.
I heard
so
you guys get
I've
taken
heard
care
that's
of. Yeah,
pretty
we've
darn good.
yeah.
Heard the chicken
Ed
farm is
and-
awesome.
So I
other-
just kind of have to go through like whenever I can, and like my office has to have lots of snacks. I'm like,
love
it's like a Trader Joe's protein bars are kind of what keeps me fueled on
Beautiful.
game days.
Love a
so.
good protein bar. What's your go-to meal in the Valley? Like, is there a certain spot you like to go and treat yourself to? Is there a certain type of meal, restaurant?
There's a couple different places. I'm a big fan. I've had some really good meals at Eddie V's.
Oh yeah, that's a great
We
spot.
spend a decent amount of time at Morton's. So
You do?
we do spend
Okay.
a good amount of time at Morton's, and does a martini count for a meal?
No, but
At my house.
it's
yeah.
garnish.
It's a garnish.
It's
that's
a
right.
garnish, yep.
But like I said, I'm a big taco person. So
Oh, yeah.
there's some really great taco places around town, and like
agree.
Sure.
the street tacos versus the restaurants. Like, but like I'm
street
pretty
taco.
like I haven't found one that's so bad I never go back. So
Oh, yeah, it's hard to have.
I'm
a bad
equal
taco.
opportunity on the
Tell
fish
you what, have
taco.
you probably never heard of El Taco Shape.
No.
In Coachella, right off. Oh my God, it's like it looks like a gas station, but it's a taco shop.
Then
Have you guys been there? You guys ever heard of that place?
I'm
Oh
a
my
big
God,
fan
it's
of like
so good.
it's El Capitan, Morisco's El Capitan, El Cap.
El Cap.
That's amazing.
Okay.
You just need to go there and there's an entertainment value there that I'm like,
Ooh.
what is happening?
We're always
an
looking for new
experience.
spots. Like that's what
It's
we-
in
that's
Coachella.
why I,
I
like this
recommend
question.
it highly.
I like this question. What's on your radio come game day? Like, is there like a morning, afternoon ritual that you get?
Playlist.
And then you're gonna get in your car and something has to jam on the way down to the arena.
It changes all the time.
Okay.
I think it really changes on my mood. Some days it's like, again, there's certain go-tos.
Name one.
There's
What's your
Foo
go-to?
Fighters is always
That's a
great.
great one.
I've got, but then I could also throw on a quality like boy band situation and dance
There's
it
nothing
out.
wrong. Hey,
80s,
little new kids for you?
yes.
The DJ had the other night, the last game, had some boy band stuff going on, and everybody was really getting into it. And Dave and I were manly enough to join in. You remember that?
Yeah, but that was after like 7 trips to Buzzbox. That's not my
That's a different
fault.
thing.
That was your
Yeah.
fault.
But it's
was fun, though, yeah.
I
It
was
do.
fun.
I curate it, but some days it could be it's all over the map. Some
Really?
days it's hip hop,
Okay.
sometimes it's like old school 90s hip hop,
Yeah.
sometimes it's heavy
Heavy
sometimes
metal?
sometimes it's metal.
Classic rock?
Sometimes it's some classic rock, sometimes
like
it's
that.
it's country. I'm a big fan of country. So yeah. and getting
Big
a little,
106.
getting some bro country on there. Like I'll get that's
Bro
get my
country.
jam on.
Bro country.
It's a whole genre. Of
Have
bro
to figure
country.
that out.
There's some auto
gonna
tune.
Google that.
A lot of Hey Girl.
I don't do country though.
Well,
That's not.
Oh, you
if
should.
you're gonna, it's a good gateway.
I don't.
It's a
Tune
good
in
gateway.
to
I've tried.
my boy Tommy C on the
I've
Big
tried.
106.
I
and
know
you'll be-
Tommy.
Yeah.
Yep. Shout out Tommy, but
Love that
it's
guy.
just
I love
not.
that show.
I've tried. So anyway, moving on. What's a treat yourself day? Actually, I'm really curious about this question.
I think I know the answer.
What's a treat yourself day look like for Gina?
I think it's a couple different things. I really like to go hiking, so I like to get out and I like to be active, and I need to be in spaces that feel less chaotic than it's like I need to do things that are
It's like outside.
healing for my brain and my body have to do different things. So being outside, going hiking, I do love a good spa day.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of like all the cryo stuff and red light therapy.
Swimming?
So yeah, I do all that kind of stuff.
Talk about
Cryo
that
is like
offline. I
Yeah.
wanna know
the
all
new
about
thing,
that.
man.
Yeah,
What's
I
your
mean,
favorite hike?
I've done a bunch of them around here, but there's still tons of, like I still haven't done things like the ladder.
Oh yeah, I haven't done that either.
See the scar right here? That's from the ladder.
You fall down?
No, I walked into a stalactite. Just
That'll happen.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
Knocked me. I fell like 10 feet down.
I like to be
but
able to go
My
and
backpack stopped me.
I like to be able to go and like anywhere I can go
It was
with my
probably
dog.
4 feet, but it felt like 10.
It felt like 10. Yeah, and you're like, it was the
Yeah.
head trauma.
But it's a great hike. No,
Yeah.
but it's a really, really good hike.
And I like to be able to have my dog with me. So,
So do you hike
Cannot take
near
your dog
where
to
you
the
live then?
ladders.
Is that
out and around, yeah.
So-
But like I'll go over to Palm Springs and do it too. Like
Really?
I really want to do canyons to clouds, but I haven't gotten that. Like my life hasn't.
canyons? I've heard of it, but
It's hard.
We have 2 friends that are doing it. It's
intense?
insane.
It's insane. I have a friend whose son and daughter-in-law.
It takes like all day.
It does. Like it's like you get up and like get over there.
that
Like
sounds horrible.
yeah, it was. That might be a
sound-
little aggressive. That
sounds
may
terrible.
That may be a whole different.
We have a
that's
place-
an off-season thing, and then it's probably too hot and you'll like burst
good.
into flames. But like Josh,
You know, they
has
have a
bunch of
tram
stuff to
that'll
do.
just take you up
Yeah,
there.
I'd rather do that.
I've done that, and I'm a big
You
fan
don't need
of
to
that.
walk up. They got a ride for you.
And you can just.
Yeah.
You come hang out with us by the Badlands. That's where
Well, Badlands is a
that's
good
where
hike.
him and I are at.
The
That'd be
real
awesome.
one, yeah.
Yeah, we're at the
That'd be awesome.
Badlands. That's you're more than welcome.
We don't live together, just so you
No,
I
we
know.
live.
Not yet.
yeah.
That's next season.
It's-
next season.
You know,
We're neighbors.
It's walking distance actually. So actually,
Everything's walking distance if you have time.
moving on. Are you a DC or an MCU person?
DC.
She
Hold on.
doesn't know.
What?
Exactly.
Oh, Marvel Comics or DC?
So DC being like Superman,
Yes,
Wonder
Superman.
Woman. and-
Oh. I guess technically I was a DC kid because I
Yeah.
was all about the League of Justice.
oh yeah, Justice League.
Wonder
for
Woman
sure.
and her lasso of truth. Do you know how bad I
Yes.
wish I had that some days? I'm like, what'd you say?
You don't want that.
Close the door.
Yeah. You don't want to know.
Play that back.
Close the door.
So yeah, I probably was more of a
like a
DC
Wonder Woman.
girl.
Okay, so my next question is, who's your favorite superhero?
I mean, I feel like Wonder Woman is like a go-to.
That's an
because-
easy
But
one.
it was also
I'll give you
Okay.
more than one.
giving my age. I thought that like she was really it was her. I don't know. Superman was kind of a big deal like my whole life. I just like there was something
Christopher
about
Reeves.
Oh, the OG.
Hello.
and like Clark Kent, like the whole like
Hello, glasses. Thank you.
I got the
it's
Clark
a
Kents on right
whole
now.
thing.
I don't even
and, like,
need these.
I feel like Clark Kent. I understood him, and he might have understood me.
Okay.
And Superman would have been like, "Oh my god."
Really?
Does that make you like Lois Lane?
Really?
No, I think that
Yes.
I'm less wishy-washy and way more decisive than she is. She did a lot of whining.
Well,
She was
okay.
tenacious.
She was.
But she
was
also-
fierce. She was fierce. She was a
She was-
I'm not
reporter.
talking about Margot Kidder. I'm talking
Yes.
about
I know.
Yes,
the
I know who you're
OG,
talking- I
the
know who you're talking
OG
about.
Lois Lane.
She was, but I think there are other things
Whose
that
name I don't remember.
I think that's part of the whole comic book culture. There's
Yes.
still this like,
Yes.
you're still a damsel in
Damsel's
distress.
exactly
like
right.
you get to be you can come up here,
Yep.
but there's that glass ceiling, so I'm not interested in that.
Okay, so
Love that.
actually, that's my jam too. I grew up with all of that, so I loved it. What other profession other than what you do now would you have liked to try or done?
Well, like I said, I wanted to be an international art broker. I really thought that
Love that one.
I was going to be, negotiating and getting priceless works of art and like really, when I was looking at sort of like postgraduate work, my thought process was I going to go into like Egyptian art, which is way over here, or like postmodernism type stuff, like anything like World War II and beyond, and was such a fan of like Matisse and everything that kind of like the futurists and the fauvists and all that kind of stuff. So it would have been interesting to see kind of where I landed, but I really thought for a while there I was going to become become an appraiser and, spend my life.
Thomas Crown Affair.
Yes.
That's what I keep thinking.
Yes, it was very, and
What
that
a
was
great
even
movie.
before that all came out. Like I knew, but
Loved it.
all the things I didn't know were real jobs,
Yeah.
like including this one. That I didn't know that was a real job. So I was trying to figure it out, like as I went along.
How fun.
How cool would it be to have like a Van Gogh jersey night?
It'd be expensive to get the rights.
Not real ones.
But that's part of it. That's some of the things I want us
so
to
cool.
evolve into is try to get local artisans and local artists to be a part of it. The challenge we have with that right now is our production timeline. So we have to do things so far out, and it's hard to get everybody else lined up. But we're definitely working towards some of those things, and that's my goal. I want things to feel representative and fresh year over year. So if we can't get to it now, we just keep that idea in the pile for later.
And we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Most of ideas don't get thrown out; they just get placed over
Oh, it's
here
true.
for later.
Yeah, in Hollywood happens every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just get pinned. This is my favorite question. So, mom, dad, whoever's driving, turn the radio down. What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, it's definitely fuck.
Yeah, it is. How often do you think you say it a day?
A lot.
Yeah,
Triple digits?
And different. Oh,
at least.
I don't know. It depends on the day. I think that.
That's an
Game
adverb,
day.
a
Because
verb, a
Game
noun,
day.
an
Oh,
adjective.
because it does. It comes up in so many, and it just fits the mood. You're just like it can be.
Who drops?
It could be amazement and you're in awe, or you could be
Yeah.
like, I'm
It
really
says it
serious,
all.
and
Just
like
So
the
would
tone
you?
is
Is it
shifted.
between you and Gino Lamont?
Oh, Gino's got to be the.
Who? Are you even in the same weight class or?
He's an F bombardier.
I know where he's
Yeah,
at. He's
no,
a pro.
I think Gino's got some more years and some more
Yeah.
barnacles
Okay.
in that respect. Like that, just he goes.
Barnacle.
25 years working in a newsroom changes your
Yeah.
chemistry.
I agree.
It just changed your
I love
chemistry,
him.
and he and I will talk about that all the time.
I love him.
And that's
Barnacles.
why
That's good.
he's
Love
just
that.
he's ahead of me on that. But
I would
one
love
can
to see the
aspire.
two of
But
you in
a
a
glass
room.
ceiling, you can catch up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he and I, he's.
So great.
We have a really good rapport, but it's funny all the
It's
time. I will
interesting, I
never
bet.
forget him turning to me, and he may have talked about it when he was on the show, in the middle of the playoff run, and it was we're going into overtime again, and it's just like nail biter behavior. And I was sitting there, and he's chewing all of his nicotine gum. I was like, "Give me the gum, man! Like, spit it out." I'm worried that he's gonna have a heart
He's
attack or
smacking
something.
and slapping it.
It's a lot, and I was like, "Give me the gum." And he's like, "This is the most stressed I've ever been in my life." And I was
Really?
like, "Really?" And he's like, "This is the greatest effing job I've ever had, and I'm so loving it."
Love
da-da-da,
that
But also,
about
oh my
him.
God, it's so stressful.
Really?
So it was really fun. Like those are, and again, I get to have those moments all the
Wow.
time in unexpected places, and he was definitely one of them. So there's a soft spot in my heart for Gino, and he
love
and I
Gino.
were an unlikely partnership and
Right.
collaboratorship from day one, and I'm really proud of how we've been able to really make that work. I mean,
love
it was
that.
like on paper, none of that should have worked out great at all. So
But that's the story of the Firebirds, man. On paper,
None of it makes sense.
This should not have worked out.
Yeah,
This should
none of it
not
makes
have
sense.
been
Yep.
what it is. And
Yep.
you and your team and everything. Oakview Group, psychics. They had to be. They
They're-
saw this before
They're
anybody.
just good planning and preparation. It's
God.
look, and again,
execution,
they
so.
allow us to really do what we all excel at and
great.
lead. And they have, getting up and going was one thing, but like they really have the confidence. And like I said, from the very top down, it is an organization that believes in people first, product second. And that was a big thing for me. I wanted to be,
feel it.
I wanted to make sure that we had that, because that's the only way I think these things really truly work and have longevity.
That's great.
I think I can speak for both of us when I say we cannot wait to see what happens next.
I'm excited.
For sure.
We thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming
thanks for
on.
being
This was a
here. Thanks for
blast.
coming. We need one more thing from you, though.
Okay,
Can
Right-
you look
right
at
into that
right
camera
now-
right there?
Say,
A big Go Birds.
Go Birds.
let's go Firebirds!
Let's go Birds!
Go Birds!